Anita Das, who was the former secretary to the Government of India in the Ayush Department in the years 2006-2008. An interesting period when the 11th PAN was formulated and initiated several new schemes like the one for development of Ayush Centers for Excellence for Ayush manufacturing clusters and public health interventions. Also, the mission on medicinal plants was launched. The first volume on the pharmacopoeia for compound drugs was published and prepared and published. After retirement, she is a member for the National Task Force on the Legislating for Traditional Knowledge, also a member for the Task Force on Geographic Indication on Crafts and Textiles. She has prepared a vision paper for the WHO on mainstreaming Ayush in public health. Srimati Anita Das. I invite Srimati Anita Das to come up on the dais.
Dear friends, distinguished scholars, thinkers, students, teachers, it's a great privilege to be invited today for me to be here, and also equally a greater privilege to be asked to chair this session on public health and Ayurveda. As we are running short of time, I would straight away go to a brief presentation on the theme, and a lot of it is based on my own perspective of, as I have seen Ayurveda in my 2 years as secretary in the Department of Ayush, and it was an amazing experience. Out of all my professional experience, I must say that this was one of the most enriching and illuminating experience for me. So the theme, when we talk about public health and Ayurveda, even today in our country, somehow in spite of being home to some of the world's most valuable, intangible heritage on medicinal knowledge systems, in India, traditional Indian medicine has remained, I won't say on the fringes, but definitely on the fringes of public health. So public health and the traditional medicine seem to run parallelly with very little convergence. And the challenge really is before policymakers, before thinking citizens, before practitioners, and also I think consumers, is how to integrate this thousands of years old medicinal and health tradition into the mainstream of public health. So in terms of public health, we all remember the Alma Ata Declaration, which talks about health for all, curative, preventive, promotive, and health which safeguards its citizens and communities from disease, whether it is communicable, non-communicable, or in terms of deficiency syndrome, or in terms of lifestyle disorders, both in terms of safeguarding and also in terms of providing curative therapies. In India, public health somehow has come to be the exclusive preserve of modern medicine or allopathy. And this is in spite of the massive effort of the parliament and the government post-independence. Public health has the distinct connotation of conventional or allopathic medicine approach alone. And this is so even though India has the most advanced and most acclaimed traditional medicine and healing systems in the world, systems like Ayurveda and yoga. And I say tunnel vision of public health policymakers because here you have something which is so rich a body of knowledge and something which has so much to offer for the greater benefit of people, of the client population. And yet, there is very little of convergence in program formulation using Ayurveda or the rest of the body of traditional Indian medicine. And just as an example, I've cited the National Mental Health Program. It really gives no role to yoga, even though there's a global acknowledgement of the significance and the contribution of yoga in mental health and mental well-being. So even in the land of its origin, as far as the national program on mental health is concerned, there's so much of compartmentalization in our thinking, in our programming, in our vision, that we can't integrate the best elements from our own rich knowledge systems into modern day science and public health in its delivery. Likewise, Ayurveda, it is well known for the therapies, for the care that it offers for the geriatric segment of the population. And again, when we think of making a program, we don't really build it in. Now, this is what we have to look at, whether this is just because of a tunnel vision or because of an exclusive paradigm of public health, or whether it is because there is a lack of adequate evidence-based research, or there is a lack of documentation, or there is a lack of dissemination of this research, body of research, because it's not as if research has not been done. But we've even got to look at whether the research findings are being diffused, whether they're being disseminated. All these are issues of concern and action. So it appears when we look at our public health delivery, the programs as they are formulated, it seems as if public health solutions are only available in allopathy. And we know that allopathy, although it has, it is the backbone of public health care, we know that there are limitations. We know, for instance, that deficiency syndromes are not always best treated through allopathic solutions. We know that, for example, anemia. Now, this is something which in India, it's so widely rampant. It affects women in the reproductive age very adversely. It affects and it leads to morbidity, mortality, to childhood malnutrition. And yet, in spite of 6 decades of intervention from the public health, we don't really have adequate solutions. It's still a national scourge. So many factors in terms of healthcare are cultural factors. And this is where Ayurveda can play a big role in terms of providing therapy, in terms of providing nutritional solutions. So being a holistic system of medicine and being more culturally acceptable, the public health programs have to incorporate Ayurveda if we want to really remove some of such types of conditions which are so debilitating. Now, you may ask why? Why is this kind of parallelism going on? Why, if we have the knowledge base, why can't we integrate it? And I think we have to go back to the historical background and to see it as a backlash of colonialism. And with the advent of the Industrial Revolution in the Western world, the spread of modern science and technology really impacted, especially since we were under colonial rule, and it impacted our people, our psyche, and it is common knowledge that all the homegrown wisdom that we had, including highly evolved knowledge systems really went on the back burner, and they were put away as if that knowledge didn't exist. And today, when the world is talking about Ayurveda and yoga, we seem to be, as policymakers, we seem to be awakening to this newfound phenomena. So the question which we need to ask concurrently is that has enough been done to upgrade and validate this treasure house of knowledge that we have, its practice, and the availability of quality drugs? So while it is easy to blame the formulators of public health program in India, I think it is equally important to look inwards and see that what have we done to upgrade this knowledge and science of Ayurveda, of the Indian systems of medicine. Is there an absence in the Ayurveda fraternity of the desire to excel and reoccupy the space in community healthcare? One of the previous speakers, Dr. Bodekar, talked about service to society. I mean, we have to look at, if we are talking public health, then we have to look at communities, we have to look at societal needs. Ayurveda has traditionally been a one-on-one kind of therapy system, but we will have to broad base our outlook, and we will have to design programs where we can outreach to the community and address their health concerns if we want a rightful place in the realm of public health. So I would say that poor community outreach is something which is very characteristic of all the Indian systems of medicine. And to my own understanding, my analysis is, I've come to the conclusion that because we specialize on these one-in-one kind of relationship between the therapist and the patient, that we are not looking wider, we are not looking broader, and this definitely affects our claim to getting into the space of public health. Also, I would say there is, this is what I found, that unless you are closely associated with Ayurveda, with the scholars, with the practitioners, with the thinkers, unless you are in it, in the game, so to say, you are hardly aware of the benefits and strengths of Ayurveda, except in a generalized manner that yes, it's very good, yes, it is knowledge coming down centuries, people have used it, hence it's good, but the power of Ayurveda therapies for specific conditions, I think, is not really well disseminated. This is what I would say as a lay person. For instance, I like to give this example of Shar Sutra. I really even hadn't heard the name before I joined the Department of Ayush. Never heard of Shar Sutra. But I came to know that it is a least invasive procedure for the treatment of anorectal diseases, which is a disease condition which is so widespread and so common. And people go in for surgery after surgery after surgery, and there's so much of recurrence and there is little relief. But I'm told through Ayurveda that there is very little recurrence, and it is a very painless kind of procedure compared to surgery and all the attendant problems that go with it, and cost effective also. So my question was, if it is so good as you experts say, why don't people know about it? Maybe it is not scientifically validated. They said, no, it is validated by ICMR. All that has been done 20 years ago. So I said, well, 20, 30 years is a long time for a procedure to have been validated by the ICMR and for the rest of the world not to know about it. They said, no, Japanese professors in Japanese universities and medical schools are practicing, and they've written papers, and there is scientific body of knowledge around it. I said, yes, but then why don't people in our country know? Why isn't it offered as a solution? So one of the things which we had done, and which was, I thought, which brought in good results was a national campaign on Shar Sutra, which was launched from the AIIMS in New Delhi with Professor Mishra, who is the professor and head of department of the surgery department, who actually launched the workshop and said that he has a weekly clinic of Shar Sutra. And in that workshop, we had, in addition to the Ayurveda practitioners, who also seemed to have forgotten it or put the whole procedure on the shelf. It wasn't a very popular thing. We also had invited professors of surgery from 30 different medical schools in the country. And there was a huge clamor for learning the procedure, so much so that, you know, at the end of the 2-day seminar, the Ayurvedas, they got up and they said, you know, this is one of the only things which is so different and which is our exclusive preserve. Now, if modern medicine fellows also are going to learn it and do it with the help of antibiotics and anesthesia, something which we don't have access to, then obviously, you know, this also is going to pass on to them. So, you know, these are the kinds of issues, just taking an example, that we have therapies, we have remedies, we have painless solutions, we have cost-effective solutions, but we have not taken care to inform the wider public about it, about where it is available, how to go about it, about the safety issues and so on and so forth. So I think a lot of education is really required. And also there is, I think, A, inadequate research, and B, lack of dissemination. The importance of Ayurveda in today's world, the Western world, of course, has awoken to the merits of Ayurveda, and there was a wonderful exposition on globalization. The whole point is that in the West, there's a clamor for the allopathic doctors to learn Ayurveda because only they can practice. The situation is quite different in our own country, where even today the modern medicine doctors are completely, I'm talking about the, not about the exceptions, but the general picture is that the modern medicine people don't want to look at Ayurveda. And we have to see why, because unless they look at Ayurveda, unless they recognize its strengths and benefits, we are not going to be able to find space in the realm of public health. They must accept, they must acknowledge. So there's this huge interest, and we all know about the spurious patent-seeking behavior which was happening, and the unique Government of India solution to that in the shape of the Traditional Knowledge Digital Library, for which now the US Patent Office and the European Patent Office have signed non-disclosure agreements, so which means that all those spurious applications which were lined up and piled up, many of them have got refused, and many of them have also got withdrawn. So this, the reason why I brought the TKDL up was that there's a beautiful inspirational example of how modern day science and technology can be married to traditional knowledge. The strengths of Ayurveda, its significance, it is not just that because in the West people are clamoring to know about it, but innately our people know and understand the value and the efficacy of Ayurveda. And what are the strengths? That's another matter that we are tending to forget the basic tenets. Like this whole concept of swasthya and dincharya, how important it is for maintaining good health, for prevention of disease, and for promoting this whole sense of wellness. And we also know that Ayurveda has very few side effects. It's much more gentle on the system, and also that it offers solutions to many of the lifestyle related and chronic diseases. But at the same time, we have to look at the credibility of the system as people view it, as consumers view it. And in many ways, there's a lack of consumer confidence. Theoretically, everybody agrees that Ayurveda is very good, and at the same time, they are not sure about whether there is any rigor in implementation of clinical standards, clinical practice, drug safety, quality of drugs. I mean, quality assurance is a very big question mark in this whole area of traditional medicine. And with such a big question mark, again, we have to think and ask ourselves whether it can really make a dent into public health. So these are issues which have to be addressed. And very often people see Ayurveda as second or third grade. I must tell you a little story. I'd been to Kerala to see this Sridharyam Eye Hospital, and they have built a state-of-the-art manufacturing facility for their traditional eye drops. So it was really, really very good, very impressive, and I told them so. And then they said it's so funny that a few weeks before, one of the high officials had come from the Directorate of Ayurveda, the State Directorate, and after going around, the dignitary asked them, they said, "But this is only Ayurveda? Why did you have to spend so much money and put up such a modern plant?" Now, this is, you know, the kind of perception that we have, that Ayurveda can do with the second best. It doesn't really have to go for the state of the art. But if we want to make an entry in, and we want to make our place in the area of public health, I think concepts of GMP, which are mandatory but which are more flouted than observed, are very critical. And similarly, quality in Ayush educational institutions. I think this is a central issue which the Government of India must address. There's so much of malpractice and substandardism in educational institutions of the Ayush sector, that because after all, education is the building block. Unless and until we strengthen that, we are not going to make much headway. Also, this whole issue of making Ayurveda and traditional medicine of India as a compulsory part in the MBBS syllabus. That modification has to be made. Now, our modern day doctors are talking about CAM, complementary and alternative medicine, because the West is talking about it. But it is really funny when people here talk about Indian medicine as alternative medicine. It is not. It is our traditional medicine. We have to recognize it as such. And I see no reason why the Government of India cannot prevail upon the IMC to change syllabus to have introductory courses on traditional Indian medicine. And we have to build up capacity of doctors in Ayurveda and its possible role in public health. Doctors, that is doctors of modern medicine, because only then you'll be able to integrate, only then you'll be able to. And on this theme of appreciation of Ayurveda and its possible role in public health, we need to devise CME programs. Also, we have to redefine our research priorities in the context of public health. The Ayurveda research priorities need to be revisited, and in the context of public health, we need to see what needs to be looked at. So, in our country, where health indices are so low, every avenue should be tapped to see that improvement can be brought about. And I have to say that it is a national shame. I don't feel happy saying this in our august body, but it is a national shame that we rank among the lowest in the scale of countries in terms of health and nutritional status of our people. And this is in a country which boasts of rich and unparalleled heritage of medicinal and health knowledge, including local health traditions. Every region of India has a rich local health tradition. So we must, what is the way forward? We must begin to use Ayurveda in program formulation, that is the national programs must have a component of Ayurveda wherever it has a contribution to make. And the syllabus also should be upgraded to include outreach and community orientation for our Ayurveda physicians. At this point of time, I am of the view that it is almost non-existent. So why can't we design campaigns through Ayurveda with built-in concurrent evaluation and research in our areas of strength? Anemia, geriatric care, pre and post natal care. Why cannot we devise school health programs for eradication of worms. It is such a common ailment throughout rural India amongst children, and it's a major cause of anemia in children. For skin diseases and dental problems. Even in Chennai, close to Chennai, I went to visit a primary health center, and the Siddha doctor told me, I said, what is the problem which comes very frequently? So all the doctors said children come in with dental problems. Now, if it can happen in a progressive state like Tamil Nadu, I had certainly heard this in my type of state, that is Madhya Pradesh and the Hindi heartland. So the point is that we take up 2 or 3 of the most common diseases prevalent among school children, our future generations, future citizens, and design programs, implement them, do impact studies, and show the world that this is what we can do through Ayurveda. And how about malnutrition? It's such a key problem facing Indian children in the impoverished families. You know, it was said in the previous speaker said that we should see how Ayurveda can help in poverty alleviation and the health concerns of the rural poor. Malnutrition. So if Ayurveda is based, one of the pillars of Ayurveda treatments is nutrition. Why can't we devise a whole program for school children and the 0 to 5 age group through Ayurvedic solutions? You know, if we don't want to do these kinds of challenging tasks, and if we just look for the easy way out, then I'm afraid we will not be able to occupy any significant place in public health. So the NRHM provides a huge opportunity across the country for convergence of modern medicine and Ayurveda to buttress each other's efforts to deal with public health concerns which have defied meaningful solutions. But this can only happen if the Ayurveda doctors are used for their own discipline, their own knowledge base, rather than surrogate modern medicine doctors who are in short supply. If they are going to do just what the modern medicine doctors do, they will only be second-grade citizens. They will not be actually contributing to public health as the NRHM had envisaged. And therefore, while physical collocation is a very important factor, because now you have more than 6,000 doctors all over rural India, but if they don't have a role clarity, they are not there to step in as surrogate modern medicine doctors. They are there to provide healthcare to the people through their own stream, through Ayurveda. But this is a site, if you travel around in the countryside, you will find that this is definitely a problem. And so we have to think in terms of collaboration, in terms of partnerships between Ayush and the public health departments, between the private sector, the NGOs, civil society, and have to work out new interventions. I think that if we work out design programs, public health programs using Ayurveda for segments of population which continue to be very vulnerable, women, children, the aged. If we devise campaigns, if we devise programs, national programs, do it on scale, do impact measurement, then definitely we are going to be able to make a difference. So let's combine the strengths of our own medicinal and health heritage knowledge along with modern medicine to provide health and nutrition solutions to our people. Thank you very much.